like to gamble, I tell you I'm your man. You win some, lose some, it's all the same to me.
Hi guys, this is me, Peterson here, recording for CardRunners. Today I'm going to be 4-tabling 4 mid-stake tournaments. And as you can see right off the bat, we get aces in versus ace-king. That's a pretty good start. Obviously just a huge cooler. So anyways, on the table where I have ace-king suited now, it's a $77 6-max turbo tournament. And we're pretty deep in it. I believe there's 24 people left. Yeah, 24 people left, so well into the money. And currently in 4th place before this hand took place, which unfortunately we don't win. Right next to it we have the nightly 70 grand, which is another 55 freeze out. Currently 64 left in 8th place, so doing really good in that as well. Actually have some chips to play with, so that's pretty cool. Bottom left corner is a $55 turbo tournament, and that's not even close to the money yet, so we'll have to wait a bit there. Alright, here in the 50-50 I have pocket freeze, and I just like to open jam it just because the stacks behind me with 23, 21, and 13 big blinds. I feel like if I just min raise, they're gonna reshove a lot on me, and I'm almost gonna get like the price to call, like, and they're gonna reshove like ace X, some of the smaller pairs as well, like 4s through 6s and stuff like that I might fold out by just open shoving. And it's definitely plus CV, so definitely think that's the way to do it instead of raise folding or raise calling. And we lose ace king again to ace queen. That's a little annoying, but still have 25 big blinds, which is a lot for a turbo tournament, I think. Alright, and the last tournament, as I said, is the 50-50. Just a $50 freeze out in full tilt. Pretty deep in that as well. If I had to guess, I would say there's like 50 people left or something like that. King 9 off here, pretty much always open this on the button. It would take a lot for me to fold it, ever. And even though the guy in the big blind has 20 big blind, which is sort of a good reshove stack, I'm still not too worried about it. You can raise fold that hand pretty comfortably. And here I have ace 9 off. Definitely open this if it gets folded to me, even though both the big blind and the small blind have stack sizes where I would expect them to reshove a lot. I still feel like it's too good of a hand to not open, but Chess Kid, who's a good player, opened before me, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, here I have pocket queens, which is awesome. Come in for min raise like I always do. This guy clicks it back, which is pretty weird, but I played a decent amount with him in this tournament, and he does some unconventional stuff, let me put it that way. I feel like his range against a lot of people here, I'd say they have like aces or kings always, but against this guy, I honestly think he could have like such a wide range that I'm prepared to just 4-bet and get it in. Folding the 5-10 suited here with the stacks and the small and big blind. Yep, and we triple up in the turbo. And obviously calling here. That's not good. So yeah, it's unfortunate he has aces. That's a really big pot. And as I said, like against a lot of people there, I would just call to click it back and just see what happens on the flop. I mean, we're unlike a ragged board, we're gonna go broke probably no matter what, but just against a lot of people it's really strong when people do that. But against him I felt pretty good about it. Just unfortunate that he had it this time. So here I only have 2.5 big blind behind against 3 all-ins, which is not the greatest, but my hand is suited and we get there. So now we actually have some chips again, 15 big blinds out of nowhere. Here min raise ace 10 off with the intention of calling off. A guy has a pretty good reshove stack, and we chatted a bit at the table and stuff. He seems competent. So that's a pretty easy call for me, and he has 8-9 suited. And we hold up, so now we have a stack in that again. Just gonna go and break, gonna cut the video. Alright, here we go. Back from break. So yeah, the queens versus aces. Honestly, when a lot of people, especially in small stakes tournaments, I found it, or mid stakes tournaments, like click it back fast, it can mean so many different things. But from a lot of people this deep in a tournament, it's like kings and aces, ace kings sometimes maybe, like the majority of the time. Queen obviously doesn't do too well against that range. And then you have some people where it's just like, it could be like pocket sixes or 10-9 suited or something. So it's kind of a weird thing to play against, to figure out how you should combat it. But like as I said, against this guy who I played a bit with, I felt comfortable getting it in. And now we have 7-8 off on the button with 14 big blinds. I think that's a pretty easy shove if this guy folds. Especially in this 55 freezouts, people just don't call anywhere near as much as they should when it comes to shoves. Yeah, we take it down. Ace Jack, easy open. Ace 8, blind versus blind. I raise it without really a plan of, like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do if they play back at me, but we'll see. Now this guy opens for pot. I'm not gonna jam Ace 9 off here. I feel like it's a bit too marginal, because people who potted usually don't tend to fold to shoves. And often they're actually pretty strong. But it's interesting to note, like, just to remember that he pots it, because we might see it again, and then maybe, like, if he continues to do it, I'm gonna jam wide over him. But for now, I'm gonna give it a bit more respect. Oh, sorry about that. Alright, so here we have some pretty good hands, ace, king, and jacks. That works. And with the ace, king, if it's gets folded to me, I mean, there's nothing here that can make me fold my hand, except if all those three guys went all in. Oh, and kings as well. It's nice. Guy has like 14, 13 big blind behind or something. Just easy shove, obviously. The jacks I'm going to shove as well, just because this guy already put in 20% of his stack, and people don't tend to fold when they do that in turbos. And also, it's the way to make my hand look the least strong. Like, if I just re-raise to 2,325 or something, it's going to look way stronger than do what I did. And he called with ace jack off, so that's good. And the guy folded to the ace king shove. That's really weird, especially since he 3x'd it. Sorry. Here with king jack suited, just gonna fold it. Like, it's a good hand and it flops reasonably well, but this guy's really short, and there are not that many good flops when he's that short, and I can't really get it in pre-flop. Folding kind of sucks, but everything else sucks even more, so that's what you have to do. Eights here, blind versus blind, just gonna jam it in. This guy seems to play pretty okay, so I feel like that's definitely the best way to do it. King 3 off on the button here is pretty close, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a fold. Marginal fold. Jack 9 off here. I would usually open this hand in this position, but with the two guys behind me, there's just no way I can do it. Like, not the two guys, but the guy in the big blind and small blind, just so short. And I really don't want to have to raise fold in that spot. Pocket sevens here, obviously calling if the button or small blind decides to put chips in the pot. Alright, so here I have deuces with 18 bigs under the gun. That's a pretty tricky spot that I feel people misplay a lot. Where you should just fold, just because your hand has, like, first thing, like, you can't open shove it profitably. You can't raise call it against pretty much anyone at this table, because we have the shortest stack, obviously. And when people flat you, like, it flops so poorly, and it has 0 blocker value. So even though, while we have a pair we should open, like, that's definitely a spot. There are other stack sizes where I would consider opening it, but here I feel like it's an easy fold. And just folded pocket freeze and the stars table, also an easy fold. Like, a short guy 3x's it from early position. There's no way to continue profitably with pocket freeze in that spot. It's interesting to note though, like the people who still free access it at this point in the tournament. I try to keep track of them because they're usually not that strong players. The same people who potted on full tilt especially. Just something to keep in mind. Alright, open 10 jack off, easy open in my opinion. And ace 8 suited here, I'm just gonna reshove it. And this guy pots it again on the ace king table. And I shove for like not very much more, and he just snap folds. So apparently it's not that strong when he pots. It doesn't really mean anything. I'm gonna c-bet the 10 jack offsuit. Really good board for it, and he gives up. Gonna make a note on this guy. I like to do that when I'm deep in tournaments, because I might clash into him again at some point. Oh. Just gonna fold the 10-9 off. You could open the 10-9 off, but with me having just opened the hand before, I tend to fold the next one more often than not. And I just try to put it politely that his play was not very good. Alright. And that's the green color node is what I use on full tilt for the weaker players. Just makes them easier to remember. Queen 8 suited here, gotta fold as well. Too many short stacks behind. And I'm pretty short as well, so. Ace 10 here, definitely an open. 6-handed. The big blind is pretty short, so he's gonna put it in a lot, but not this time. Which is fine. Yeah. I'm just gonna make a note on this guys as well, because we just saw it. Like, that's a pretty good note to have as well. People who open limp late in tournaments, but doesn't do it with, because there's like two kind of players who open limps. There's people who do it like to sit cheap flop with weak hands, and then there's people who do it with like aces and kings, and like it's trying to trap you like most of the time. I feel like it's really important to be able to distinguish them, because like if you're gonna, like, say someone limps from early positions and you have like pocket sixes with, I don't know, 15 big blinds or something. If you know they limp weak hands, like you can easily jam over them and it will be profitable. But if they just limp like kings and aces, queens, stuff like that, obviously you can't, and like you're gonna bust the tournament a lot when you do it. So that's pretty important. Here with the tens, min raise the button, obviously calling a jam really fast. My hand is way ahead. I'm actually really unlucky with flipping here, but I make a boat, so it's okay. King queen off here. Not sure what I'm gonna do here. Under the gun that's a really close spot. I think I should have jammed this actually. I'm just usually in turbos when people limp under the gun with like 13 big blinds. I'm pretty suspicious, but it might have been a jam actually. Alright, here with queen jack off, 10 big blinds, blind versus blind, easy shove. I would shove hands way worse than this. So not really a concern. Yeah, I'm starting to think, I think that king queen fold was a mistake. I'm not sure why I did that. It's a little annoying. Ace 4 suited here. Gonna just raise it, of course. only have one stack behind me who can put it in, and that's the small blind, and he's so short that it doesn't really matter. Good call, but flops a flush draw. That's pretty sweet. I tend to make my c-bets like slightly more than half pot. I try to stay on like the smallest side though, just because it gives you more flexibility, in my opinion, post flop. 6-7 suited here on the turbo table is a hand that looks like it's good to open, but the thing is that in these tournaments it's so much push fold for everyone that you're not going to see a flop very often, and so it doesn't really matter if you have 6-7 suited or if you have 10 deuce off, because you're not going to call a shot either way. So it's one of those hands, or one of those situations where your hand looks a lot prettier than it really is, in my opinion. Man, I'm getting a lot of premium hands in this video. It's pretty awesome, and some of them are even holding up. So we have queens here, just gonna min raise. And Fear the West is hanging. That's a guy. It's not quite a click it back this time, but I'm having deja vu. That's the same thing that happened before. I'm still gonna put it in. I'm just tanking to give the appearance that I'm doing it light. He calls again. This time he has ace-10 off. That's weird. Not necessarily saying it's super bad or anything, but I just expected him to re-raise with stronger hands and call stuff like... But like that's the thing I told before, like with the queens where he clicked it back. He's definitely capable of having way worse than what he had. And queens again, yeah. Min raise. And that guy who's been really active shoves over me, so that's great. Yeah, he has nines. He plays it fine, obviously, just unfortunate for him to... Oh, hold. That I picked up a hand at this time. So now we have so many chips in that tournament. I'm really surprised at how good the structure is in that nightly 70 grand. It's a tournament I didn't usually play, but decided to play it today for whatever reason. Eights on the button here. Raising, not folding to anyone. And here we have the 8-jack suited. A hand I usually wouldn't call with, but being that we are reasonably deep and I am closing, getting good odds, I think peeling a flop is perfectly fine. And this guy makes a 20k, which is sort of gross. If he had jammed, I would have called really fast. I'm still putting it in. I just feel like his range is slightly more weighted towards strong hands. But 8-10 suited is not a strong hand. So that's pretty... It's a little weird, but I sort of understand what he tried to look stronger, and then at that point he was committed, so... Reshifting the ace-queen off against the under the gun, and just calling with my 8-jack suited. Not really any value in re-raising it, in my opinion. Gonna fold this 10-jack suited under the gun, just because both the big and small blind have really short stacks. And he checks it back here. I'm just going to check it down. If he bets here, I give him credit for ace-king or king-queen a lot. So I might just fold, but worked out pretty well. Let's take a look at what he had. Pocket deuces. So yeah, that's pretty good. Jack 8 off. Definitely not folding this, I don't think. I'd usually just raise this. You could limp it as well. It's not like folding would be the worst thing ever, but this guy has over 20 big blinds, and our hand flop's okay, and just want to keep up the aggression and chip up. Folding king 10 suited there. Really pretty hand. And a hand I would reshove a lot, but just had too many chips in that spot to really consider playing it. Here with King 8 suited, I'm gonna raise the button again. If the small blind jams, I'd have to fold. And obviously the same with the big blind jams, but that's not gonna happen as often. Plus, against the hand he decides to just see a flop and defend with, like, it plays pretty well. Here with Ace-3 suited, I'm gonna fold to this, re-raise. Here with Ace-3 suited, decide to min-raise, even though the stacks behind me aren't the greatest. I still think it's a pretty okay spot to open. And the guy who defends the big blind, he's the same person who 3x'd it with 13 big blinds or something like that, and then folded to my jam with Ace King earlier. So I feel comfortable about that. Checking back the flop, like, just against a player like this, I don't think there's too much value in betting it, and just checking it might make him do something dumb later on. Against smart play, or how should I say, against regular players I play a lot with, I would bet the flop with an ace way more often. Just because they would expect, it's sort of like you want to bet like some percentage of your range against them and check some of it and stuff like that. So like, even though 10-10 ace is a board where usually, I'm gonna reshove here. I don't know, I think I just had a read in this guy that he was opening more than he probably should. Yeah. But like on a board like ace 10-10, like basically you just need to be, when you bet on that board, like in order to protect your bluffs and whatever, it's pretty good to bet your mate hand as well, even though it's like one of the weakest mate hands you can have. That's why a lot of people on that board would like bet ace king and check ace 8, which doesn't really make that much sense, to be honest. In raise jacks here. Flop is not the greatest, but I'm definitely not planning on folding at any point. Bet slightly bigger than I usually do, just because of the texture. Here with king 10 off. Sure. Yeah, I think that's an okay fold, actually. I was just about to say I'd like to open that a lot, but given that there's at least 3, maybe there's 4 people behind me who will probably shove over it with a decent amount of hands, I think it's alright to fold. I think opening would have been okay, though. I'm surprised I folded as fast as I did. Sometimes when I rewatch the videos, like, I don't know, there's just certain things where I feel like it's an easy open or something, and for whatever reason, I just didn't do it. Here with ace 8, yeah, that's an easy fold. Not really interesting. When people open like that, they're usually also pretty strong. And the guy on the button flats, so unless he has kings or aces, which I'm not saying is a good flat, but it's like the only thing that makes sense. He's definitely not a very strong player. Queen 4 suited on the button. We're pretty close to where the money is getting bigger in the 6-max tournament. So, and I don't know any of these guys at all. Never seen them before. So I'm gonna just apply slightly more pressure than I normally would. Still though, like, we're playing like pretty shallow stacks, so you can't be too unreasonable. But I get kings, which is awesome. And this guy min raises. And I'm up. That makes it easy. Here we go. And he's reshoving. Yeah, he's reshoving really light, which is what I said. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's pretty good. Bank. That was really nice. I'm gonna have a huge stack. Here with pocket deuces, I don't really want to raise call it, and you can definitely shove it profitably, so that's what I'm gonna do. Just take down the blinds. Playing free-handed here, I think there might be 7 left in the tournament actually. Oh, 9th place? So we're probably 7 or 8 left or something like that. Pretty close to the final table. Just gonna fold that blind versus blind. Ace 8 suited here on the button. They only have like 15 and 10 big blinds, 11 big blinds. Easy shove. Do get called by sevens, which is a good call. But we banged on the turn. Seems to be happening a lot recently. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Have an even bigger stack in deck now. Pocket fives here. Oh, it doesn't. He shoves, so easy fold. Bodak Ari good move to my table. I haven't played that much with him, but he has my note call that says he's a decent regular player. And I don't know, he seems to be doing at these stack sizes. I expect him to be playing very, very well and not making many mistakes at all. We both have a lot of chips, so, and with this being the bubble, I could see us. When I'm racing here versus him, like, I'm never doing it with the intention of folding ever. Like, if he free bets me there, I'm 4-betting all the way. And even like if he, this might sound like a lot of big blinds, but if he happened to have shoved, I don't think he would very often, but I would definitely call as well. Just because when he makes a big shove, his range is more weighted towards like the lower suited aces like ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4, and the smaller power pairs like deuces, 3s, and 4s. Obviously, there are some better hands in as well, but 5s is doing well enough that I would be willing to get it in. I'm also covering him, so I would still have 14 bigs, even if it all went wrong. King 6 suited here. It doesn't matter now, but I don't think Ari is opening too light. He's probably opening like a decent amount, but with both the small blind and the button having stacks like they have, I feel like he should be opening pretty tight here. Here queen deuce, blind versus blind. I just made a note on Labrat just because in this spot when he flats here against that player, I think he's going to have like aces or kings nearly always. I'm going to reshove all his worst hands. As it turns out, I'm actually wrong. And yeah, you'll see that in a second. Queen jack suited, opening here, even though it's under the gun. Yeah, he has ace king, which I'm a little surprised about. I definitely feel like he should just be reshiving that, but he did have like the top of his hand sort of, so it kind of makes sense. Here, a7 off. The guy in the small blind is really short, and the guy in the button is pretty short as well, so he shouldn't be opening too light. And yet I go ahead and shove it in. I don't know. He didn't seem like the kind of player who would. He seemed like the kind of player who would be opening more than he probably should in that spot. So I'm really hoping he folds here. I don't think he ever folds a better hand. I think that's pretty unlikely. Here, 4-7 off blind versus blind, gonna open it against Ari. For a bunch of reasons, like the main one being ICM. Meaning that, like with the other people being so short, and me being the biggest stack and him being the second biggest stack, he's probably gonna hold back a little. And just play a bit tighter than he normally would. Here with the 8s, min raise the button. Here with the 6s, this guy is really short. He's obviously committed. That's a pretty tough spot. Not sure what I'm gonna do here. I think I'd like to see me fold. Yeah, good. Just because when someone so short opens instead of just shoving it all in, open shoving, I get really suspicious. But there is some overlay in the pot, but even then, I don't know. I'm gonna fold the king 8 and the jack chop versus ace king. That's unfortunate. We're getting pretty close to the money in that turbo tournament as well. And he's sort of whining in the chat. I hate when people do that, especially after winning a pot. You get pretty tired of listening to it pretty quickly. Alright, tens here. I am picking up a lot of good hands though, I must say. Easy reshot. And again, really unlucky that we're flipping, but pretty lucky that we flop a set. Again, ace-3 on the button. Gonna fold if anyone 3-bets the shoves, but and queens. Huh, and I get a walk. Come on. So now we're on the final table bubble, 7 left. I'm playing hand for hand, so this could take a little while. Ace-9 here against Ari. Same as before, like I'm racing it, but I'm never intending on folding this. The sixes here, his race is a little bit scary to me, especially with the small blind being so short. That being said, I still think he's gonna fold often enough to where I can profitably jam it in. And the big blind decides to get it in with Queen 10 suited, I suppose because of the overlay. And we pinged the turn again, starting to become a trend. It's pretty sweet. Here against Ari, I'm just gonna see that, and he folds. Not that much more to it. Trying to extend chip lead. This is a hand where I'm gonna do something I don't do very often. I'm gonna open limp the button, and it's just one of those spots where I feel like my hand plays pretty well, like it's a pretty good hand, but if I min raise it, the big blind is almost never going to defend. He's always going to shove or fold, so it doesn't really matter if I have king 6 suited or if I deuce 3 off. I feel like my hand is a little bit too good to that, plus people will be really suspicious about the first limb by thing, so I'm going to get a more credit than I probably should. It's not something I do a lot, but I think it's okay to mix up once in a while. And flop 2 pair, obviously, because that's how I'm running this session. And yeah, this is pretty damn lucky. The limb flop 2 pair and get re-raised on the flop. He snap calls. And we have the same hand, though. That's a bummer. He's even free rolling. Alright, so we made the final table here. Yeah, I have a note on him. It's basically just that he plays really aggro. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I've seen him around before for sure. Here, king queen off, and the stacks behind me. Just gonna open shove it. Don't want to give anyone an opportunity to put me in a tough spot. I'd rather just do the shoving myself. Also getting really close to the bubble in it, so can definitely apply some pressure here. Not with 4 deuce off, but like just a bit lighter in certain spots than it normally would be. Queen jack off on the button here. We'll see what happens. If it gets folded to me, I'm all in. And we get snap called, which is unlucky, but we're lucky enough to be flipping. And not only be flipping, but out flipping him. That's pretty sweet. I run okay. Here with sixes, too much to just open shove, so just gonna race and see what happens. Which isn't the greatest plan. I'm basically racing and calling against not the guy who's tanking now, but the 4 people behind him. I'm all calling. Here with the eights, yeah, very easy call. Happen to be flipping again. Sorry. Flip after flip, as someone said on the rail. That's true. I'm really showing you guys how to be awesome at flips. And get ace king the very next hand. This guy opens here. I have ace 10 off. Also pretty close. I'd lean towards jamming this though, but I ended up folding for some reason. I'm curious why that is. It is pretty close. It could definitely go either way, but I'd say I'd jam that more often than not. Here was the sixes. Pretty close between raise call and just open jam. Ace 7 off here. Obviously I'm opening it, but it's one of those times where I'm opening it, but I'm not calling a shove from anyone, and the big blind is very rarely just calling this min raise. I mean, sometimes, but not that often. So just one of those things where it looks better than it is, basically. And yeah, now you can see Ari coming over the top. I had to fold. Folded ace 8 here. Seems fine. I think I would have won the pot, though. Oh well. It's also worth noting at my at the nightly 70 grand table that a good player has moved to my right. So I might look for a spot, and we're both really deep. So at some point when he opens, I'm definitely gonna look to get a light free bet in. I like to get like my first free bet against people if it's possible. I like to get it in light. Like just put in one light free bet because it gives you. I'll talk about it a bit later, but I just feel like it does so many good things for you. Like, basically, it means you can... If you put in a light free bet as the first one, you're completely in control when you make your second free bet against the person. If you want to do it light, or if you want to just knit it up and wait. Like, whatever you feel suits the situation best, you can do. Whereas, obviously, if you just wait for a good hand, like, the first free bet is just always going to be a strong hand. So, I get ace, king, and kings here. Pretty good life. Just min-raising the kings. I would shove a lot of hand, that's true. So it looks really strong for people who pay attention, but I don't think these players are. I think there's more value in giving them the chance to just regen. This guy re-raises me, like, just kind of clicks it back, which is really weird. He's obviously committed, I'd assume. Maybe I said that, no. Yeah, he did one of those things that the other guy did as well, where he tried to look strong, and then he was sort of forced to call it off. Wouldn't really recommend that. Now we're on the exact bubble. We have a huge stack for turbo. That's pretty good. Queen jack off, they're always folding it. Just way too early positions, way too shallow stacks. You have to fold the 9-10 now. Would have opened it, of course, against Ari. Maybe even limped it. You could go either way. 6-7 suited here, as you can see I'm folding it. It's one of those things where it's like a pretty hand, but all the free people behind me are never going to flat. They're always just going to fold the shove. So, in my hand, it actually doesn't really have any value at all. Folding ace deuce here to the opener has been pretty tight, like no value, and can't really free bet fold. I mean, I could, but like it's ace deuce suited is one of those hands I kind of like to free bet fold, but this is just not one of those spots where I like to do it. Here with ace-7 off. I'm gonna open it if the first, no, okay, it's folding in the button. I was just gonna say, if 9 all day, I'm folding this down here. If 9 all day had opened there, I would be pretty tempted to free bet it. Even though it's not a hand that people usually consider free bet, because it's sort of, like, people have this conception that you should free bet hand like 6-7 suited and not ace-7 off, when in fact, because like they're like, oh, it's a disguised hand and it will flop better and it won't be dominated as often, which is all sort of true, but like just ace-7 off is a good hand to free bet for a lot of other reasons. Like it's not like you're going broke if your flop is an ace or 7 for that matter if he flats you, and like it has a blocker and stuff. Here I have 7-8 off. This is the first spot I really get to free bet him live. I'm definitely gonna go for it. Also, all the stacks behind, none of them are committed, which means that he should be opening even wider. I just made it 2.4. I feel like that's fine, or 2.5, whatever. And we're reasonably deep. If he does anything, and he just snap folds. So yeah, now I got the first free bet in, kind of like that when we're that deep, because now I can decide if a good spot comes up where I have a weak hand, I can free bet him, and if not, I can just wait for a premium. So here, jam 9 big blinds blind versus blind with 6-5 suited, and this guy calls with queen 3 off and make a boat for a pretty big pot. I mean, it worked out pretty well for him, but that being said, I wouldn't recommend it. That's a pretty damn loose call. It's a shame I didn't have like queen 8 or something. Here I have 20 big blinds, king jack off, and just gonna open shove it again. I'm pretty indifferent in this specific spot if you open shove or if you just min raise it. But oftentimes it's actually lower variance to just. But a lot of the time it's lower variance to just open shove it in spots like that, just because people are not gonna reshove on you as often. They're not gonna defend. Like there's just a. Oh, sorry. I'll get back to that. Here, this might look big with Ari having 20 big blinds in the button, but it's really not. Jack 10 off, I feel like is a perfectly fine shove in that spot. And here, ace 9 off, I'm jamming it over a limber who has 3 big blinds, which looks sort of strong, but I'm still getting too good of a price. And the big blind is committed, so he called as well, and they make 2 pairs and a straight. Can't beat any of those. So again, like, that's pretty. Now we have 15 big blinds in that turbo. Not feeling too great about it. And he just limps in here, 13 big blinds deep. That's pretty weird. A little suspicious. I'm just going to take the free flop with 3 jacks suited. I'd expect him to continuation bet this board a fair amount, and he does so, but very big. This is kind of an awkward spot. I am just going to peel one and pretty much fold to any turn of river action. There's 2 flush draws, and like a bunch of gutters got there. Obviously just going to check down. I think I'm good most of the time now. But, man. Yeah, he limped in with an ace. That's a really big mistake. Definitely wouldn't recommend that. Should just have shoved the pre-flop. Here, yeah, this looks like a really big jam. I'm aware. Like it's 30 big blinds, blind versus blind. The thing here though is, if I just raise, I'll give Ari the option to shove a lot of hands over me. If I just jam, he's almost never gonna. He's just gonna call with like the very best hands, because the other 2 people have 10 big blinds each, and he has 30, and I have over 50. So, like, busting in 4th for him here, calling it off against me, would be a disaster. It should definitely not happen very often in his shoe. He's going to try to avoid that, not at all costs, but... And here, min raise ace king suited, and it sort of backfires, because this guy decides to flat me again. I'm just going to peel a free one. And there's 50k in the pot, and he has 80 behind. Still just going to... Hopefully I can check it down. I do have some showdown value in this board. But not against 10-8 suited now. Oh well. This time he does decide to raise and didn't even jam, just made it 3x and folded to my shove. So he's certainly a pretty weak player from what we've seen. Here against Ari, deuce 3-8 off, sorry, does not play very well. I'll be honest, but still one of those spots where I'm gonna raise any 2 cards, just because of the 2 other people having 10 big blinds each. And also when I shoved the one before, I feel like it looks stronger if it just raised the next one was trash. But Ari didn't think so, he had a hand, because ace take off here, easy reshove, guy has 8 big blinds. And king jack, that's a pretty good result. Boom. And king 10 off here, opening for a min raise. Everyone behind me has decent amount of chips. This guy decides to free bet me, which is not cool. Here with 6s, this is a really weird spot. Guy with 10 big blinds makes it 3x. Like if you just shoved, I would have isolated him, but now, nah, I don't feel too good about it. I don't know, it just ended up, people, more often than not when people do that, I feel like they tend to do it with their strong hands, like free exit, and just shove their weaker hands. It might not be the case here, and you might just have something that he's raise folding or raise calling it off with that isn't too great, but it really puts you in an awkward spot when you have those middle pairs like 6s. Probably fold. I don't know what I would do with ace jack against him. I guess I would get it in, but I wouldn't feel too great about it. I almost did something stupid with that king 6 offsuit and decided to fold. And clearly the right play, but sometimes when you have the big chip lead, you just want to like open every single hand. Sometimes I have to hold myself back just to, because there's obviously a time and place for it, but it doesn't mean you should be like just mindlessly opening every hand. I was going to open the 10-3 offsuit if it was folded to me in the small blind, but king 6 offsuit here, folded to me on the button. I'm jamming it for sure. Now the guy before me opens, so it doesn't really matter, but king high is a pretty big hand. And good thing I didn't. Yes. So here with the ace, easy reshove. And I have him completely crushed. I mean, even though I'm ahead of his rank, that's pretty good news. And we're free-handed now. We have all the chips. Here, ace king just gonna raise it up. I do that with some weaker hands as well, so it's fine. I don't have to, like, it's not pure shove fold yet. Here, folded it. Yeah, I think that's fine here with the big blind. Like, it is pretty above average hand, and I am on the button, but they're both like so shallow. I couldn't even open limp because my read on the big blind is he's gonna jam like pretty widely, just be aggro in general, so I don't think that would have worked out. And he doubles through Ari. So here with ace queen, standard reshove, or shove, sorry, not that much to say about that. Hopefully he folds. He has a lot of chips though, so he might make a light call. Just checking out on that. King jack off coming in from min raise here. Oh, get called by freeze. A little surprised by that, but we win the flip obviously, so it all works out. And Bodak Ari doubles up here. Which normally you root for people to go out, but here it isn't the worst thing that they have sort of even stacks. Because it means they kind of apply even more pressure on both of them, and both of them should try harder not to bust, if you can put it that way. So this guy, who just got it in pretty light, I'm going to always reshove here with king queen off, which I guess a lot of people had folded, but we have the same hand, so shove it up. Here they both have like 15 big blinds or whatever. Easy shove. They're gonna call pretty tight. Calling with eights though. Didn't expect him to fold that. But we flop an ace, so it's all good. Easy game. So now we heads up against Ari. I've played a lot of like heads up scenarios in the past and stuff like that, so I feel pretty comfortable playing heads up, especially with like sort of shallow stack sizes. As long as it isn't too deep. Just gonna shove the king 10 here. And all day makes a real big shove here. A really big shove here for 40 bigs. I'm not sure why he wouldn't just free bet smaller, getting it in versus the button, not folding, or folding if I put in more chips, but I'm just gonna fold ace 10 suited. It's sort of close, but I don't think he's jamming that many worse hands. Just gonna walk the jack 5 off. King 9 suited here, gonna jam again. Oh, getting called by ace 4. But probably gonna get there. Flush draw on the turn? No? Alright. So I'm gonna fold the 4s here to the 9 big blind open jam. Here with ace 8. Just gonna put it in, I think. Alright, here now against 9 all day is what I talked about before. Like, now I have a spot where, because I opened, like, the first time now I can get a free bet in and kind of do what I want. And this just happened to be the first spot, first chance I think I got to, like, free bet him again. But obviously not folding the ace queen to him. Like, but now I get 4 bet by the button, which is normally a really tough spot, I think, but this guy has just been, I just think he's so full of it. Like, the way he's been playing seems to try really hard to, like, be aggro and try and outplay people and stuff. So I'm gonna go with it here. Hopefully he folds. I mean, when he has me call jab, I'm pretty sure he just has air, complete air. Like, there's no way he's 4-betting a hand for value and then folding to a 5-bet shove. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. So I think he's just trying to save some face here. Or he's slow rolling me. Not slow rolling. Alright, that's a nice pot. You say, lol, nice bet. Oh, thank you. It's a weird thing to say. Queen 3 here, gonna call 1 c-bet. But like, not the great flops, we're probably gonna be done with it on a lot of turns unless I turn free a queen, which I do. He bets again here, just half pots. I still think, even with all the draws here, I'd rather just call here and let him, like, give him the chance to, like, bust the draws on the river, maybe even turn something into probably not turn something into a bluff, but, like, value bet worse, stuff like that, instead of overplaying my hand in the turn. And he had a jack, so he's like when he has a weak jack, he's gonna fold to re-raise on the turn anyways most of the time. So, all right, here table 50. We're still pretty short, but picked up queens. Could potentially help. Nope. Just gonna check the 5 deuce here and be done with it. Ari likes to limp a lot of buttons. I don't think it's the worst strategy or anything. It's just, I don't know, I feel like you have to mix it up a bit. Here, definitely gonna reshove the ace queen against 9 all days open here. Or his shove over the open here. Feel pretty good about it. He has freeze, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate in the sense that it's one of the hands we're flipping with, and I have a lot of his hands absolutely crushed. That's a really big pot to lose at this point. That sucks. Oh well, we still have some chips. We're still above average for sure. Still have this third biggest stack at the table. Nine's here, blind versus this really aggro guy. I'm just racing and really hoping that he free bets it, so I can 4-bet get it in. But he just decides to call. He was the 5s again. It looks like a big shove, but really, the biggest stack behind me has like 14 big blinds on the button, and everyone else is less than 10. So he calls with ace 10, which is perfectly fine. Good call. Works out well for him. Now here in the 9's hand, like bet the flop and checking the turn, like for a bunch of reasons, like let him blast with just a pure heart that floated. Also to control it so I can value bet most rivers, and just not to get like blown off the pot. He had 7-6, so yeah, that's kind of what the kind of hand I think he has a reasonable amount of time there, which is great. I think I got max value versus him for sure. Glad he didn't bet the river though. That would be an awkward spot. Alright, so he with 8s. Ari makes a committing re-raise, and the 8s do really well against the hands he have here. So, yeah, we have him pretty crushed. So that's it. That's how you win a tournament. Win all the flips and cool the people. That's pretty sweet. Finally recording an actual win. We still have 3 tournaments left though. It'd be nice to win one of those. They're all pretty big. Here with the 7s, just gonna call. Even though we have this free bet dynamic, I'm not really comfortable free betting it and calling it off to a 4-bet or 5-bet, getting it in or whatever. I'd rather just see a flop, because a flop is set. That's pretty good. Also on a really dry board, like I feel like someone is gonna have a queen here, like sometimes honestly, and everyone checks to me. It's somewhat close between betting and checking, but I honestly feel like with all those people in the pod, you really just want, like the best way to get value here is actually to check behind. And it's something I rarely do with a set. I just feel like this is a pretty good spot for it, because this is the sort of turn where people can pick up a lot of draws. Like someone can have like ace-3 of clubs or like something like that. And first guy leads for like 5th of pot. What the hell? Jamming to 7-6 off here with 10 big blinds in the cutoff. And this guy re-raises 9 all day. Not really. He could just be re-raising here, trying to pick off, because like the guy who leads for 10 flops almost never has a good hand here. So he's probably gonna re-raise, and like his bet is pretty small as well. So what I have to decide here if I just want to call or if I want to 4-bet. But I definitely feel like you should re-raise here, just because of the way I've been playing against 9 all day so far. I mean, the question is though, what value hand could he have? I suppose he could check a queen behind on the flop, but it's pretty unlikely. A set of 5s he could check behind, also pretty unlikely. I just click it back here, sort of. I'm trying to induce him to do something stupid with, like the hands we talked about before, like ace-3 suitors. I mean, I obviously snap call his shove, but it doesn't work out that well. And it's one of those things where when I replay the hand in my head, like, it's sort of. I mean, I'm obviously never folding like second best sets, even on such dry board. But it's just one of those things where when you think about it and think he's a good player, it's the only hand he's checking behind on the flop. Like simply because, and I understand why I would check it. Like, because there's so few. Like besides the sets of sevens or fives, so someone having the last queen, like there are no good hands anyone can have that could, like, possibly continue as rainbow as well. And then when he gets to the turn, like all of a sudden puts all those chips in against me. Like, he's definitely not doing that with a naked queen, because if he had a naked queen, he would just call my re-raise and try and, like, if he thinks I'm ever bluffing, like, let me bluff him on the river again. And he wouldn't check a set of fives on the flop, because then there would be 3 queens left in the deck, and there's a decent chance someone has something. So, it's just a really big cooler, but at the same time, when you think about it, queens is the only hand that really makes sense. That said, I'm never folding it, and I expect him to, like, just call my re-raise with queens also some amount of the time, or like re-raise at small black bag. I don't expect him to shove queens very often there. But yeah, definitely a huge cooler, no doubt about that. So yeah, I had a lot of chips in that tournament, but didn't really work out. That's all it takes. Like, lose, even with such a big triplet, like losing one flip, like the ace queen versus freeze, and then like getting set, having like second top set against top set, like tough to recover from that. But we still have these 2 tournaments left, and the 50-50, like with 20 big blinds. Well, not quite 20 big blinds, but like almost in a tournament like that, I feel pretty comfortable. I still feel like people, even with such shallow stacks in those 50 freeze-out I found, it still makes some pretty big mistakes. It also helps to get aces in the small blind. Just gonna make a small raise here. 14 or 15,000 will do. Well, I'm just praying he doesn't fold here. Puts money in the pot somehow. Here, World Cup times shoves under the gun for like 6 BBs. Would have snap reshoved on that. Now a guy with 3 big blinds put it in. He could be pretty wide as well. It's going to be way tougher to win a freeway all-in though, so I am going to fold it here. It's sort of close with 6s. Yeah. I mean, results-wise, like, it would have been pretty okay, but I feel like the other thing is, if I lose the all-in, like the main pot, I don't have as much fold equity with my stacks as I do now with 12 big blinds. So against one guy, I feel like getting in is fine. Against 2, it's pretty close. I definitely get in with 7s there. Like 6s on my cutoff for what I would fold in that spot. Folding the king 9 here. It's just small shove. Actually, it could be ahead, but like just too many people behind. Would definitely call out of the big blind. Maybe even isolate out of the small blind. Yeah, it probably would. As you can see, everyone folded to him. People in these 55 freeze-outs tend to fold in like spots where you sort of have to call with almost any 2 way more than they should. I mean, I guess that goes without saying. It just surprises me how much I see it. So getting really short in this turbo thing. You need to pick up a hand and win an all-in pretty soon. 3-4 suited here on the button. If it's folded to me, I'm certainly shoving it. And it is, so hopefully they fold. Or we make a flush or straight or something. And get snap called by 8s. One of the worst hands that could be up again, and flop is just not very good. So that's unfortunate. I'd like half a big blind left though. Obviously gonna call it off here. There's no hand that would fold here, like the antes are just way too big. So we could in a 10k. Oh, that's not a good flop. That's no fun. Alright, so out of that as well, and believe we made it pretty deep into it. 11th place? Yep. So, alright, one table left. 50-50. This guy's tanking hard. He must have a really marginal hand, because he's the one who called it off against me before, like, pretty late. So we're 12th out of 19th. That was pretty good. Could definitely work with that. Definitely work with this hand. So I feel like I played pretty well overall this session so far. Just a few things that didn't work out, and obviously everything worked out perfectly in that 6-max turbo. Oh, that's unfortunate. Alright, nothing to do about that. I guess that was it for now. This is Peterson signing off for CardRunners.com. Thank you for watching.